Well, for more, I'm joined in the studio now by Andrew Hilliar, our International Affairs Editor. Good to have you with us. Andrew, Rubio's speech, very much a call for renewed ties between Europe and the US, but very much on Donald Trump's terms.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the underlying tone, I think. There was a collective sigh of relief in the audience. Audience waiting at the start, though, with bated breath until Marco Rubio said that US destiny was intertwined with Europe. And that's when the first applause rung out in the room. So there was a lot of relief, particularly after last year's broadside from J.D. Vance, US Vice President. Just take a listen now to how J.D. Vance's messaging last year compared to Marco Rubio.
And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners.
We should be proud of what we achieved together in the last century. But now we must confront and embrace the opportunities of a new one. Because yesterday is over. The future is inevitable. And our destiny together awaits. Thank you.
Now, what actually changed? Well, the tone certainly changed, but if you listen to the underlying message, it's remarkably similar to what J.D. Vance was saying last year. The difference is that J.D. Vance last year went in all guns blazing, using a kind of a shock therapy against the audience, warning against mass migration, the need for limits on borders. Now, Marco Rubio had some more flattery in his approach. There was this idea of shared purpose between the US and Europe, a kind of conditional partnership framed in Donald Trump's terms. He tried to bind Europe into Trump's ideology. He talked about a climate cult distorting policies. He talked about the folly of expanding welfare states, the folly of embracing, according to him, a world without borders. However, if you look at his speech, you'll see that he mentioned the word civilization, for example, at least 12 times. That's a very Trumpian narrative, but essentially saying that Europe is a friend, but it needs to change. And as we've seen in the past, however, this patching up can all be undone with a social media post from Donald Trump, and that's been hardwired into the heads of European leaders over the past year, which is why this change in tone doesn't necessarily change the underlying dynamic, which very much stays the same.
So, Andrew, European leaders very much reassured then, but also, crucially, warning against complacency.
Yeah, absolutely. Ursula von der Leyen, European president, saying she was very reassured by Rubio's speech. In fact, von der Leyen and Keir Starmer were two of the first leaders to speak just after Marco Rubio's speech on Saturday morning. So they had, in a way, an opportunity to kind of respond directly to what Marco Rubio was saying. Here's Keir Starmer first, warning against complacency. Take a listen.
I'm talking about a vision of European security and greater European autonomy that does not herald US withdrawal, but answers the call for more burden sharing in full and remakes the ties that have served us so well. It's really clear, though, that we shouldn't get in the warm bath of complacency and think that, therefore, all we're really doing is reasserting.
Now, Haxi, what's interesting is this balancing act we're now seeing from the Europeans. So Keir Starmer's speech is a very good example of that. The US is important. Europe's grateful for American military support over the past decades. But he again insisted Europe needs to be more autonomous. And it shouldn't be complacent after hearing Marco Rubio's reassurances this morning. Ursula von der Leyen with a similar message, but also saying Europe needs to stand alone. It needs more investment in defence. And we're even seeing now this kind of alignment, this steady alignment between Keir Starmer, the UK, and the EU. There was, during Keir Starmer's speech, a round of applause when Starmer said the days of Brexit Britain were over. So you do get the sense, on the one hand, that the Europeans are making a push here, a concerted push for more hard power in order to favour an equal partnership with the US, with Donald Trump's administration. What Marco Rubio appears to be offering, however, is a partnership on Donald Trump's terms, framed in a Trumpian narrative, and that is going to be problematic for the EU, I think.
Andrew Hilliar, thank you very much.